It is Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, along with Wade Neely. We are coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes on this fine Wednesday afternoon. Looking forward to spending the next couple of hours with you talking sports of local, regional, and national importance. And I think we have all of those aspects covered at some point between now and 4 o'clock, Wade.
Yeah, we got how do I say this? A broad show. We paint a broad stroke on this program, and we're excited about what we got today for sure.
Absolutely. We will be talking in our next segment with Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Johnson City, as we typically do on Wednesdays, talking a little NASCAR. Now, NASCAR is in a little bit of a stall mode at this moment with the Olympics. They were off this past weekend. They'll be off this coming weekend, but I'm sure Heather will have something for us to talk about, and looking forward to seeing what that is. So, always good when we can get Heather on. In the second hour, we will be joined by the Titan insider, Terry McCormick. And I think we really kind of need to talk Titans today because it was kind of spicy out at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park yesterday, both on the practice field and off. For now,
this happens every year, Mo. When they get the pads on, tempers start flaring, and we saw a little bit of that yesterday.
We saw a little bit of that, but it kind of spilled over a little bit, and kind of want to get Terry's take on said spillage. So we'll talk about that in the second hour. We'll also be talking little Braves. They had a nice performance yesterday. Not so nice just yet today, but still plenty of time for it to turn around. Also, Houston took another one on the chin, but nobody is as bad as the Chicago White Sox right now. We'll talk a little bit more about them as well. And a couple of other major league moves that have taken place here over the last day or so. Also, some other NFL news, because again, we will actually have an NFL game tomorrow night. Now, it won't count, but it's the Hall of Fame game in Canton ahead of Hall of Fame induction weekend in Canton. So a lot to talk about there. Obviously, we've got the Olympics going on, and again, it is Wild and Wacky Wednesday. We will wrap things up as we bring you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. So always fun when we are able to get into what we're able to come up with there. Wade, any thoughts as we get ready to get into this?
Man, I'm pumped. It's going to be a good show. Like you said, we got a lot to cover. MLB trade deadline wrapped up yesterday, and so we kind of have reshuffled the deck a little bit, and we can kind of see where those teams, maybe the new pecking order, as it were. You did mention the White Sox. Interesting strategy by them at the deadline for a team that's that bad. So,
right.
A lot to tap into. Yeah, Team USA soccer's already been playing today. Team USA basketball already been playing just a few moments. So we got a lot to be excited about. And we're smack dab in the middle of the week, like you said, Wild and Wacky always to close the show. No shortage of fun headlines in our final segment.
Never disappoints. So let's go ahead and get cracking with yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Buckle up, boys and girls. The rundown is underway, and we give you last night's scores. We mentioned a couple of Major League Baseball scores, but here are the finals. It was the Astros falling to the Pirates 6-2 down in Houston, and the Braves got a 5-1 win on the road at Milwaukee last night. Other baseball scores in minor league action, The Sounds defeated Gwinnett. 9-3 was your final score there. 3 major and minor league baseball games, and that caps yesterday's scoreboard.
Today's action right now, the Braves and Brewers are playing up at American Family Field in Milwaukee, and it's the Brewers leading 2-0 through 3. Also, at 7:10 tonight, the Pirates and Astros continue their series down at Minute Maid Park. At 6:05, the Nashville Sounds continue their series at Gwinnett against the Stripers. And at 8 o'clock tonight on Apple TV, Nashville Soccer Club makes its debut under new coach BJ Callahan as they take on Mazatlan in Leagues Cup play. Again, that one's at 8 o'clock. You can see it on Apple TV. And that is your rundown. Your top story brought to you as always by Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check them out for their delicious daily deli lunch items, which are available until 6 o'clock, as well as their hand-cut meats. And everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill in Columbia, bringing you our top story. And as Wade mentioned, the U.S. and South Sudan are underway in Olympic men's basketball action. So trying to get an update. 6-0, 91 seconds into the ball game. South Sudan calling a timeout. I think that's pretty much a harbinger of things to come.
Yeah, spread on this game. This is the reckoning right here. You know, they kept it a little close. A little too close a couple weeks ago, but spread on this game tonight, 29.5. And I would not be shocked if the U.S. comes out and really tries to impose their will on these guys, because it feels like one of those, you mess with the bull, you get the horns type situation. It's kind of what it felt like coming into this one for me a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was a tough situation. You know, it kind of got folks started talking bad about Team USA. That, what was it, 101-100 decision that Team USA got over South Sudan in their next to last warm-up for Paris, prior to that 4-point win over Germany. And then they roll in, and on Sunday they clock Serbia 110-84. And you know, I don't want to make it sound like they just flipped a switch, but Wade, you have to be careful, because as we saw with Team WNBA and Team USA in that All-Star game a couple of weeks ago, I don't know that those games necessarily got Team USA's attention, the South Sudan game and the Germany game, or if it was just, maybe they just kind of needed that time together to kind of figure some things out.
I think a little bit of both. You're exactly right. And then just to top things off, of course, adding Kevin Durant now finally into these Olympics, and for all the talents that we've talked about earlier this week that he brings to the table at the international level, that's certainly got to count for a lot too. So would not be shocked if the U.S. comes out, like we said, gets a big win. Didn't know this. Put on our throwback cap, Mo. Royal Ivy, the old Texas standout. That's the South Sudan coach at the ripe old age of 42. He's out there coaching up the guys this afternoon, and had South Sudan in position to beat the United States. And if you're South Sudan, you're kind of like, man, I kind of wish we maybe would have had that better of a showing when the game actually counted at this point, because especially in this group, Serbia got a massive win. They absolutely throttled Puerto Rico this afternoon. Jokovic had just an outstanding game, kind of like you would expect. So Serbia features to be in the mix. This is obviously a massive game for the U.S., but one that you obviously assume you're going to win. But South Sudan, as far as they're concerned, I mean, this is a critical game for them in terms of potentially them advancing to the knockout round.
How many advance, Wade? Do we know?
If it's at all similar to soccer, I'm assuming still it's top 2, and then there probably is that weird group of 3 where the best third place finisher with point differential probably being your tiebreaker advances. And so we've seen Greece now, who's 0-2. They've gotten off to a flat start Canada has kind of ascended to the top of that group there. Germany and France, not really surprising. Germany winning the World Cup just a couple of months ago in like the Philippines, I think is where that one was played. So those are kind of the pecking order there. So South Sudan, their chances are kind of running a little thin unless they come up with a heroic performance versus the U.S. today.
And you feel like that's what it's going to take.
Feel like that's what it's going to take. Although it was crazy yesterday. I don't know if the viewers got to watch. Japan almost stunned France at home. Came down to the very, very end of the game. Japan honestly blew the game. They should have ended up winning that contest, but instead they lose. So now they're 0-2. Otherwise, would have been wild because every year the story revolves around the U.S. And if they're playing well, obviously everybody's expecting them to play well. But if they're not playing well, that was what grabs the headlines. But if France had fallen yesterday, that would have been the biggest storyline of the Olympics in terms of men's basketball at this point.
So this U.S. and South Sudan game is on the USA Network if you want to watch it. But if you're watching it on mute, good luck, because there is no score bug on the screen. So I don't know what the score is.
You just got to guess, or just, we're going to have to use our context clues here. I'm watching, LeBron, he's smiling a little bit. So, I mean, vibes seem okay at the moment, but you're right. It is kind of odd.
It's very odd. So there's about 4 minutes left in the first quarter of this one right here. And there we go. 10-10. So South Sudan regrouped after getting down 6-0 early on, and Drew Holiday with a basket, making it 12-10 there. So,
it's crazy that I don't know why the score bug is not up. I'm sure there's some sort of reason for what.
There's got to be an explanation for that, but that is not very user friendly right now. So,
no, I really don't know what. And we mentioned South Sudan. They are the newest nation in the world, Mo. You got to go all the way back. I mean, all the way back to July of 2011 when they achieved their independence. So, I mean, they're kind of the young pups just on the global stage in general. So this is kind of a cool storyline. And I think a lot of folks, even though they wanted the USA to win that game a couple of weeks ago, a lot of folks kind of became semi-South Sudan fans at that point.
Yeah, I mean, up to a point, you want to see them do well. You don't want to see them knock off the USA, but you want to see them do well as long as they're not playing Team USA. So
yeah, hey, when the chips are down and we're playing today, it's definitely Steve Kerr is my guy today, not Royal Ivy. So we'll just
I mean, but
after today, then we can go back to rooting interest.
Yeah, kind of similar to the conversation we had with Terry McCormick regarding Derrick Henry and the Titans and the Ravens. I mean, yeah, you want to see him do well when he's not playing us, but when it comes right down to it, you got to be with the two-tone blue as far as that goes. And the same thing here. So again, 13-10 Team USA over South Sudan as the first quarter winds down here. And we will be continuing to keep an eye on that. I feel a little bit more comfortable since Matt Olson just tied that game up with a 2-run home run a little bit ago. It's 2-2 Braves in Milwaukee, up in Milwaukee right now. You texted something right before we came on the air, Olympics related. I'm gonna give you the floor to take a little deeper dive.
I jumped the gun, and as soon as I sent the text, I knew I thought there was like 5 minutes left. Australia came back the other day, so the USA ends up winning 2-1 in ladies soccer action, and it was 2-0 at the time. And I thought there was only like 5 minutes left. Turns out there was 15 minutes left, which is more than enough time. U.S. almost also had a third goal for what that's worth. Mm-hmm. But the crazy part is the game in the match prior to this, Australia scored 4 goals in the span of the final 30 minutes to come all the way back in 6-5. They defeat Zambia the other day. Mm-hmm. Australia, one of those teams, kind of like a Canada, kind of like just below the U.S. in terms of the global pecking order. So they were on the verge of potentially really falling flat on their face. And then they kind of showed a little bit more spirited effort. But yeah, I texted you and Mark. I said, this is the game over. Trinity Rodman already had one goal. Looked like they were cruising. Australia got one in stoppage time and made it a little closer than it ended up needing to be, perhaps.
It's nice to hear Trinity Rodman out front with this Team USA charge. Again, obviously, the daughter of NBA legend Dennis Rodman, but certainly making her own name in her own sport. And it's really kind of cool to see those second generation athletes like that. So that's good stuff. I was watching a little gymnastics earlier today, men's gymnastics, a little bit more than I anticipated watching, to be honest. But dude, that Frederick Richard, have you seen him?
No. Is he a specialist, or is he kind of all around? Because
he's kind of all around.
I'm looking at a picture. This dude is jacked. He's ready to step into CrossFit in Pulaski and just tear the floor up right now. I can already tell.
I mean, I don't know, and it kind of speaks to, where we are regionally, I guess, but I don't know how he's not on somebody's football field. Man, he is a specimen. Yeah.
Michigan gymnast. I should have known that. That's poor form on my behalf. I apologize to Mr. Richard. 5'5", which does hurt that does.
He looks taller. Okay,
that does veer you toward gymnastics rather than football. But I mean, it can't be undone, because that dude is a brick house.
I apologize, Mr. Richard. I wasn't familiar with your game. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, let's take a break here from the Lee Company Studios on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we will be joined by @Sports Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Johnson City, talking a little NASCAR. Later in the show, we will be joined by Terry McCormick of TitanInsider.com, talking Titans. Guess that was a giveaway. But anyway, stick around. We'll be back after this.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers, putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you. No matter what's happening in the world, or at your house.
I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We are Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. We're coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes. And it is Wild and Wacky Wednesday. Later in the show, Wade and I will be bringing you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. Also, later in the show, we will be checking in with Terry McCormick from Titans training camp. Again, things got a little tense out there Tuesday, so we will see if they calm down today. But right now, we are joined by Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Johnson City. Heather comes weekly to talk NASCAR, even when there is no NASCAR. Like,
sure, or whatever we want, Hal Mummy or ETSU or whatever, is the topic du jour of the day. We're down for any of it.
Or the Chiefs. Absolutely. Yeah. Heather, no racing this past weekend, no racing this coming weekend because of the Olympics. But, what are you anticipating, particularly once racing resumes at Richmond next weekend?
Well, I think we can start with, there'll be a lot of questions about the hot topic that came out last week after we spoke, which is that Corey LaJoie is going to be out of his ride at Spire Motorsports starting next season. Spire has been making a lot of changes. They added charters. They're added Michael McDowell as one of their drivers from next year, added Rodney Childers, probably the biggest offseason acquisition for anyone as a crew chief. And I guess maybe they just decided that Corey didn't fit into the picture. Nobody's had a chance to really talk to Corey. He put a statement out on social media, but when everybody gets to the track, I'm sure that'll be a topic of conversations that happen during the off week. Also, Tyler Reddick got married, and this doesn't like a nice off week wedding ceremony. So, but when we actually get back to the racing, it's going to be go time for anyone that's not qualified for the playoffs. It's going to be time to get your win or get as many points as you can to try to get one of those spots without a win, however that many that ends up being when it's all said and done. There are a lot of drivers that are feeling pretty, pressured. There's a lot of urgency for some of these drivers like Bubba Wallace, even Ross Chastain, Chris Buescher, Kyle Busch, Todd Gilliland. Those guys, they need to, get going if they want to be in the playoffs.
Heather, you mentioned Tyler Reddick. I was just about to ask you, what, by and large, what are most drivers doing during this time?
It kind of depends. A lot of them, like Denny Hamlin said he was going to take a vacation for the first time, and he can't remember when, with his children and his fiance. A lot of drivers, at least for a week, went on vacation. Some of them did too. Some of them are coming back and doing testing or sim work or that kind of stuff this week, kind of getting back acclimated. But for the most part, there's a lot of time off because there's so little time off in this sport that goes basically from the second week of February to the second week of November, right? So there's not much of an off season. Once January 1 hits, they are gearing up with sponsor obligations and photo days for NASCAR and Fox and NBC. And now they'll have 2 more sponsors and Turner Sports and Amazon Prime that they'll have to do production days for. So, they only get maybe a month off at the end of the season and maybe 1 week or 2 weeks off. So a break like this is rare for these guys. So most of them are taking advantage of that. I'm
also curious, in that same regard, how much of a nice thing is it for these guys to get a little mental reset? We spoke last week, can't really do much in terms of, I guess, prep or, can't run on other tracks and things of that nature. But how big is this break going to be maybe mentally for some of these guys in your mind, especially the ones that are kind of lurking or needing big performances down the stretch?
Yeah, I think it's just like any other offseason. If you were running well going into the break, like Bubba was running pretty well, he may or may not wanted this, right? Because, athletes are superstitious and momentum is a real thing. And so if you're running well, then you want to keep going. But if you're someone, Denny Hamlin, even though he's locked in the playoffs, they were just not good the last 5 or 6 weeks. So he probably was looking forward to a little bit of reset, a break, get his mind off of racing for a little bit, come back fresh, ready to go. So I would say that, how the break is interpreted is probably different for each driver.
Makes sense.
Heather Williams of WCYB TV joining us here on Main Street Sports today, talking a little NASCAR. And Heather, how hard is it for the teams to deal with this, given that it's not something that you get every year? So there's not necessarily a defined way to handle this time off, because they're not necessarily used to having it.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting experiment for sure. Just like anything else, when you get a curveball, the best organizations usually come up with the best game plans on how to handle this. That's why they're the top-notch organizations. When you look at, just for instance, when COVID was thrown at everybody, that the teams that rose to the top were generally the best teams. In NASCAR, it was Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick that were dominant during that time. Two of the top organizations. The Lakers, one in the bubble, one of the top organizations. So I think that, it is an interesting experiment just because it's not that often that they get 2-week breaks in the season. But I think everybody will be watching very closely what everybody else is doing and see who comes back off this break in the best condition. And then when it happens again in 4 more years, you'll probably see a lot of people emulating whoever came out of this 2-week break in the best shape.
There you go. Richmond, obviously we'll talk a little bit more about it next week as it gets closer, but as you look at who needs wins and what that track is traditionally about, who do you feel like maybe has a chance to come out of there with what they need?
That track is traditionally all about the Toyotas. I mean, they run really well at Richmond. So if you're looking for a guy who needs a win, who has a chance to at least have a good showing, even if he doesn't win, I think it starts with Bubba Wallace. Denny Hamlin could, as I said, use a little mojo. He traditionally runs really well. He won in the spring when they were there the first time. Martin Truex Jr., he's on the higher end of guys that are in on points only, but he's not locked in. So he would love a victory there. So that's where Ty Gibbs is another one, that is on the high end of guys in on points, but a win obviously locks him in. So he would want to have a good performance there. Those are the guys are looking at to come out strong. But, Kyle Busch, who was in the Toyota, has had some good runs there. He desperately needs a good run. He probably at this point needs a win if he's going to make the playoffs. There's a lot riding on it for Kyle. He's on the streak of I can't remember how many wins, 10 seasons in a row or something like that, and maybe even more of wins. And so if he doesn't get a win this year, specifically before the playoffs, that streak will come to an end. Obviously, his playoff streak would come to an end. So he's a guy that's probably got Richmond circled just because even though he's not in the Toyota, he has a little bit of that mojo since driving in most of his career in the Toyota.
Heather, I'm curious. We're talking obviously about a lot of topics here, and we kicked off the combo by saying we could go a number of different avenues. So many social media posts over the last decade with the Olympics when they come to town, predominantly from, I feel like, anchors that are at other outlets. What does being an NBC affiliate look like in terms of either your day-to-day or kind of how that process plays out? And ultimately, do you get any swag out of the deal is where I'm really going with this too. So
no swag. Sorry to disappoint. Our promotion department,
that's tragic right there.
But it did not make it down to the sports department. We put a lot of emphasis, obviously, on local ties to the Olympics. I think we have 6 athletes with some sort of tie to our area. So keeping up with those guys specifically, guys and gals specifically. We also try to keep up, obviously, with the UT athletes, with anyone from Tennessee that might be interesting to our viewers. Same thing with Virginia and Virginia Tech athletes. And then we do a lot of special things. We have a guy, he's actually got a NASCAR connection. There's a guy named Jose Castillo. And if you were out at the race in Nashville, he was the guy who was the host. He introduced all the drivers on stage. He comes up on the video board, keeps people entertained during any kind of breaks and that kind of stuff. He is actually doing that same sort of a job for Team USA House in Paris right now. So he is in Paris. He's from Johnson City. You may have seen the shots during women's gymnastics last night. All the athletes gathered there to watch the other athletes if they can't be at the venue. So the men's gymnastics team was watching. The guy who kind of keeps that house going from an entertainment standpoint is Jose. And so we've kept up with him a lot. And the NASCAR fans love that because, he's a NASCAR guy. That's where he came from. And now he's over in Paris. But that's basically what it is. Just, keeping up with the locals, just like I'm sure the TV stations, the NBC station there in Nashville specifically is probably keeping up with the Nashville athletes that are over there in Paris.
Speaking of keeping up with locals, Heather, this isn't Olympics related, but Evan Carter was kind of the toast of Northeast Tennessee last year as the Rangers won the World Series, and he was a big part of that. The Elizabethton native saw something here in the last couple of days. He's probably done for the year, has not played since late May with some back issues, and at this point isn't expected back. Was moved to the 60-day injured list by the Rangers a couple of days ago. Tough blow for that youngster, I would dare say.
Yeah, I mean, especially because he, as you mentioned, burst onto the scene with such promise last year. I think he thought, and the Rangers thought, that he had a good chance to maybe compete for Rookie of the Year based on what he did in the World Series. But his back injury has really been bothering him for most of the season, and it showed in his numbers. And he tried to work through it, and then he tried a short stint on the DL, and he never really could get that sorted out. So I guess they felt like, I haven't talked to him since the offseason, so I'm not 100% sure, but I'm guessing that they just felt like shutting him down and getting him 100% right before they push it is probably the best for him moving forward, because he is so young and there's still a lot of baseball left for him to play.
Absolutely. Lumbar strain, apparently. They're saying that a postseason return might be possible, but not probable given the long-term nature of the injury. And a postseason return may not be probable given the long-term performance of the Rangers this season either. But
well, if they do make the postseason and he's not there, I can tell you that our ratings on our Fox station will be way down compared to last year, because I don't know, even the people that weren't baseball fans per se were very much caught up in that. Now, we have several other kids that are in the big leagues from around here or knocking on the door of the big leagues, specifically one that just came off the DL, Hunter Stratton, who plays for the Pirates. But yeah, I mean, the interest in baseball will go way down without Evan Carter in Northeast Tennessee for sure.
Now, where is Granger relative to you guys? Because Wade's favorite team has a kid, Trey Cabbage, from there.
Yeah, just outside of our area is in the Knoxville viewing area. It's like one of the neighboring counties. So they do play up here a lot and play schools from our area. So in the northern portion of our county, Greene County, Harkins County, those schools, there's probably some people that are familiar and probably fans of his from seeing him play a lot, but technically not in our area.
Okay. All right. Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Johnson City, talking NASCAR and more here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Heather, we've got NFL football starting tomorrow night with the Bears and Texans in the Hall of Fame game, which means we're not far away from Chiefs talk. You got anything for us right now?
Go for a three-peat.
Oh,
it seems a little inevitable almost.
I mean, it's tough to really even speak against the possibility. If not the Chiefs, who, right?
Well, there's definitely some who's. I mean, I think a healthy Spangled team is definitely a little bit scary. I mean, Buffalo always seems to Buffalo, but they are good, and they have beat the Chiefs several times in the regular season, I think. Obviously, the 49ers, same thing. They're always dangerous. But none of those teams have what the Chiefs have, which is Patrick Mahomes. And in the biggest moments, he shows up. He's Brady. He's Jordan. He's that man, right? He's that guy. And that's, first of all, as a Chiefs fan, I never in a million years thought that I would be saying that. If I named off the laundry list of ridiculous people that we have put behind center in my lifetime, Brady Quinn, Elvis Gerback, Tyler Thigpen, Tyler Palco. I mean, it's just been a who's who of what the heck. So I cannot believe when we signed Alex Smith, I thought we'd hit the lottery, and that was just scratching the surface of what we could be. So I can't believe as a Chiefs fan that I'm getting to talk about one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever take snaps being on my team. It's funny because I was talking to one of my coworkers just yesterday about the fact that the hardest thing for me to get used to as a Chiefs fan is everybody hating us now. I mean, because we were kind of just, this team that's sometimes good and sometimes terrible and not really threatening. A lot of people like the Chiefs, right? And even when we started winning and we started knocking, New England off their pedestal, people were like, oh yeah, but now nobody likes us. And it's so hard for me to get used to that. I mean, I'm not going to give back any of the championship rings or anything, but it is a new world for me.
So, embrace the hate is where you're at this point then, right?
I mean, you got to, because I don't want to go back to the Tyler Thigpen era of Chiefs football.
Who was there was an Alabama quarterback in there with all that too, right?
Brody
Crowell. That's it.
Brody Crowell, if I'm not mistaken, holds the record for the most starts in NFL history without a victory. He never won ever as a starting quarterback.
Well, now to be fair, I mean, Jalen Hurts notwithstanding, Alabama quarterbacks have not been especially great in the National Football League.
And yet most of them have found a way to win at least one game. Something that he never did.
Somehow, some way. Usually.
I mean, and he started a lot of games for the Chiefs. I mean, at least this season's worth. So,
too many, huh?
Look, when they drafted him, I told my mom always brags on this because when they drafted him, I was like, this is the worst draft pick we've ever made in our life. This guy's terrible. And sure enough, he was awful. My one claim to fame.
There you go. Well, I think you've got more than one, but certainly that one would qualify. Heather, we appreciate you spending some of your Wednesday with us. Look forward to catching up with you next week as we get ready for Richmond.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Heather.
All right. Hey, when we continue here on Wild and Wacky Wednesday on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, we'll be talking a little baseball, a little Braves. So stay with us when we return to the Lee Company studios after this break.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
July 31st, 1954. Before Jazz Chisholm, there was Joe Adcox. Breaking his bat in the previous game, the Milwaukee Braves outfielder borrowed that of Charlie White and proceeded to go 5 for 5 with 4 home runs and a double, scoring 5 runs and driving in 7 as the visitors down Brooklyn 15-7. Adcox's 18 total bases set a Major League Baseball record that stood until Sean Green of the Los Angeles Dodgers racked up 19 total bases in 2002 against the Milwaukee Brewers. That was this day in Braves history. Borrowed bats.
Hey,
I guess.
How does that work too, right? I mean, hey, I know you let me borrow this, but it's mine now.
Yeah, as you are fond of saying, walk in your trap, take over your trap. I mean, yeah, if I get 5 hits with your bat, then it's not your bat anymore. So
no,
sorry,
no,
I don't make the rules. So
right, yeah. It's, I mean, some things they explain themselves, and sorry.
Yeah. What? How many hits you got with this bat? Yeah. So, Braves 5, Milwaukee 1 last night. Bryce Elder was 6 in the 3rd innings, 1 earned run, struck out 7. The Braves scored 4 in the 3rd, and just took care of business from there. It's kind of the way you draw it up, really. Right now, the Braves and Brewers are tied mid-6, 2-2. Again, Milwaukee scored early. Matt Olson with a 2-run homer here just a bit ago to tie things up, and that's where we sit. Chris Sale still in the game for the Braves, going for his 14th victory of the season. Jorge Soler led off the game for the Braves in his first game back after he and Luke Jackson were traded from San Francisco on Monday, just before yesterday's trade deadline. Neither of them was able to get to Milwaukee because you can appreciate this if you've traveled at all in the last 2 or 3 weeks. They had flight issues and couldn't get to Milwaukee from San Francisco. So, but they are both in pocket today. Again, Soler leading off, playing right, wearing number 2. And at 6'4", 225 pounds, I'm wondering if there has been anyone bigger than Jorge Soler to wear single digits in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, that is a large human, capable of sending the ball a very long way.
To say the least. To make room for Jorge Soler and Luke Jackson, Nacho Alvarez and Bryce Elder, last night's winner, were both sent down to Gwinnett late last night. So they get back in time to finish up the series against the Sounds this week down in Lawrenceville. So I imagine Alvarez will be in the lineup, if not today, certainly tomorrow. I would imagine the Sounds will miss Elder, him having gone last night. I wouldn't expect him to go again before Sunday. So should miss that. And given the way through yesterday, might be just as well. Houston falls again to Pittsburgh last night, 6-2.
Didn't sound good. Hunter Brown going. He's pitched okay at times this year for Houston, and just kind of what did I read a blog post last night. Just said that it's kind of been a up and down or floundering season, and it was kind of a floundering performance last night as they got down early, 3-0, and when you only score 2 runs, that tells you all you need to know right there.
Yeah, no doubt. They go again today at 7:10. Framber Valdez getting the start for the Astros, 9-5 with a 3.43 ERA. It's Jake Woodford, who recently came over from the White Sox, getting the start for Pittsburgh, 0-2 with a 10.80 ERA. So, yeah. If you're the Astros, you kind of like the sound of that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the total bases earlier. It took me a second to remember who it was, but it was Suarez last night. He had 3 home runs, and he went 4 for 4 in 6 at bats. So he wasn't in Sean Green territory, but he was getting kind of close because that dude was swinging as the Diamondbacks clobbered the Nationals 17-0.
Oh, that's not good. That's not good.
For Washington.
The Nationals lost 17-0. The White Sox lost 4-3 to Kansas City, but that was a franchise record 16th straight loss for the White Sox.
And they've done this a couple times. There's been a couple key points, and randomly, a friend was texting me about this. Chicago, spoiler, bad teams blow leads. They blew the lead. They gave up 3 runs in the 8th inning. Otherwise, they probably snapped that streak. This is like the 2nd or 3rd time this season that you look up and you're like, hang on, is this number right in terms of the games lost in a row? Feels like they had a really similar streak early in the season. And you're like, this can't be right. But yeah, they are as bad as advertised.
They may be worse than advertised. And yeah, they scored 3 with Vinny Pasquantino putting the Royals up 3-2 and I'm sorry, 4-2 in that one before the White Sox scored late. Vinny Pasquantino, whose dad, Dennis Pasquantino, was recently named baseball coach at Spring Hill High School. So
always
not a whole lot of Pasquantinos around. Mm-mm. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, and to your point earlier about the trade deadline and moves that were or weren't made, I mean, Chicago falling to 27-83 on the year. They are on pace to break the 1962 New York Mets record for most losses in a single season. That Mets team lost 120. The White Sox are on pace to lose 122.
Yeah, we always talk about the chase and the races in baseball, but this year we get a little bit of a different variety, sounds like.
Unfortunately for Southsiders, that's got to be tough to watch, to say the least.
If Bob Kessling was the GM, none of this probably would have happened.
Just there you go. Yeah, they missed out big time. We talked earlier this year about Jackson Holliday, probably the top prospect in all of baseball. Went up to Baltimore, went like 2 for 36, came back down. He's gotten off to a little bit better start this time around, going up. Hit a grand slam for his first home run.
Yeah, re-announcing, if you will, his presence with authority.
Authority.
Man, that's a team too that a couple of weeks ago it looked like they, as the Yankees were kind of tanking, it looked like the Orioles would really have a chance to take off. And right around that same time, they kind of went into a little bit of a funk. So neither team really gained much of an advantage, and that division is basically neck and neck. So the Orioles will take any and all offense they get. And Gunnar Henderson, as talented as that guy is, I can't pull up the stat off the top of my head, but he hasn't homered in like 10 or 11 games in a row now, I think, which is a really, really long stretch for one of your top sluggers in all of baseball.
Yeah, he was leading Major League Baseball in home runs, I think, at the All-Star break. So apparently he has not homered since then. But yeah, that's Baltimore did defeat Toronto 10-4 earlier today, though. That one just went final a little bit ago, I think. So they are a half game up as of this moment on the Yankees in the American League East. Now the Yankees, and the Yankees have beaten Philadelphia today. A lot of day games today, apparently.
Yeah, big day games, and you're right. The Yankees, nice win. But then last night, obviously, everybody was talking about Jazz Chisholm as, man, he was swinging a big stick to knock off the Phillies in 12 innings last night with a couple of dingers.
He borrowed Aaron Judge's bat,
Yeah.
I think, Monday night and hit the second of his 2 home runs in that one with Judge's bat. So yeah, he has definitely been revived since coming out of Miami, it seems like. So I was kind of hoping the Braves might make a run at him, but apparently that was not the case. There's an interesting article on CBS Sports, 3 reasons why MLB trade deadline was such a snooze. Crowded playoff field left too many teams stagnant. And I guess, there's a lot of teams that feel like they are still in the hunt, as we talked about leading up to the deadline, Wade.
Yeah, and then the interesting thing was we talked about Screwball, thought he might get moved a couple weeks ago. He obviously does not. And then Crochet, when you're talking about the White Sox, you're definitely thinking he might get moved. From kind of what you're reading or what we're gathering online, though, it sounds like he is probably still going to get moved. It just won't be till the end of the season. Something about his contract, maybe a sign and trade type situation. So he stays put. So there was a real chance. We were thinking this dramatic big shakeup, and it was kind of a snooze. There were probably some key moves that were made, but not to the real great effect like we were potentially thinking about a couple days ago.
Yeah, I would dare say the biggest one was one of the last ones as Jack Flaherty went from Detroit to the Dodgers. You knew that the Dodgers were going to try to do something to, address their pitching situation because they've got so many guys in flux and on the injured list and that kind of thing. So, yeah, they were able to get Flaherty. Apparently, the Yankees were involved in on Flaherty late and backed out, and the Dodgers came through. So that was possibly, again, the biggest move right there. Dodgers, though, continuing to kind of flounder as that word seems to be in play here. They dropped one yesterday to the Padres. They played tonight and again dropped 2 of 3 to your Astros. So even as they lead the West, they aren't necessarily the sure thing that you might think they are.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying Houston, Freudian slip there, but San Diego is coming on strong. And, yeah, it's a pretty big cushion. I mean, Arizona's kind of right there with San Diego too, and they're playing pretty well. So the Dodgers don't have a ton of room to really kind of dilly-dally, as it were, but they do have a nice cushion that will – if you're a Dodgers fan, hopefully give you a little bit of time to kind of reset the deck a little bit and get things moving forward.
Yeah. San Diego certainly went for it. They were really active at the deadline. Arizona picked up Josh Bell from the Marlins yesterday. So both those teams, maybe kind of feeling like the Dodgers are a little vulnerable and trying to position themselves to take advantage if they continue to slide. So.
Yeah, it feels like this thing is going to be wide open. And it's kind of going to just come down to me to who takes hold in these last kind of 2 months, really. I mean, I'm not reinventing the wheel here necessarily, but I mean, it feels like somebody is going to start catching fire. The Dodgers seem like the chic pick just because of the talent that they have.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, just because you get your ticket to the dance doesn't mean obviously you end up as the prom king. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the season shakes out because there are some races that will definitely be decided probably on the backs of some of these moves. But as far as what that means for the postseason, anybody's guess is as good as mine.
The Padres traded for Tampa Bay reliever Jason Adam traded for Miami closer Tanner Scott. What else did they do? That's not all they did, because they got somebody from Pittsburgh, I think. Scrolling through an article here on the LA Times.
Yeah, I love the Athletic, the way they put this. Padres trade everyone they have left for 2 more relievers, Tanner Scott and Brian Hoying. And so, yeah, whoever we got, we're just going all in on these guys.
Yeah. So, and again, you know, that's there. I think there's something to be said for, you know, perceiving your window and trying to take advantage of that. So, you know, kudos to the Padres for taking a shot and trying to maximize their level of competition right here, and hopefully that'll somehow pay off for them. So let's wrap up the first hour of Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return, we will jump into the grab bag and see what we can pull out. So stay tuned when we come back to the Lee Company Studios on the other side of this break.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers, putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
Hour number 2 of Wild and Wacky Wednesday starts right now here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I am Maurice Patton. Seriously, really.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, and that's Wade Neely. Wade, ahead of that Houston-Pittsburgh game last night, neat little event, as your first pitcher was former Houston Texans receiver Andre Johnson, who will be inducted into the Professional Football Hall of Fame this weekend.
Yeah, nice little touch. Cortland Finnegan, wasn't sure if he was in attendance, but it was good to see Andre, as we mentioned that a couple weeks ago. He's, I think, the first Texan. Is that right? That's going in.
He is. Yeah.
So a good touch, but yeah, Mr. Finnegan was not to be found, I don't think.
No, he did not catch the first pitch. It was actually Craig Biggio that caught it. But yeah, that's it's nice that he's being recognized in his hometown like that. Also, 50 Cent was on hand. 50 Cent did not throw out the first pitch.
Okay, phew. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Also, Reggie Jackson was on hand. And again, Craig Biggio caught it, so that's pretty cool. Houston royalty right there. He will be going into the Hall of Fame this weekend along with Dwight Freeney, Brewston Hollow Rock legend, and I just lost his name.
Patrick Willis.
Yes, thank you. Goodness gracious. Don't get old, Wade.
You're not allowed in Hollow Rock Brewston for the 2 week. You're on 2 week hiatus now.
There we go. Yeah, I'm double secret probation in Brewston Hollow Rock. But yeah, this is a nice little class that you've got going in here.
I think so. Julius Peppers in the mix. Former UNC. Devin Hester, of course. I mean, it's cool that we've got the kickoff rules back now, and it feels like the kickoff is going to be a cool thing again in the NFL, only fitting that Devin Hester is going to be going in.
For sure. It would be fitting if, especially with the Bears playing in it, if one goes back in tomorrow night's ball game, that'll be something to kind of keep an eye on, I think. So, yeah. We also got word that there is going to be some technology kind of played with, I guess, with regards to preseason games and first down measurements. Trying to find more on this. The NFL will measure line to gain with Hawkeye technology in select 2024 preseason games. So I guess we kind of got some laser measurements being introduced. Sony's Hawkeye technology will be tested to, see what its viability is in terms of measuring the line to gain. We're in the installation phase for all of our stadiums, really getting them calibrated and up to date. We're just really getting to a place where this system is as accurate as possible and really calibrating across our multiple stadiums. We have multiple stadiums with multiple dimensions inside of those stadiums with different age. So we're really just going through the installation of putting in the infrastructure and making sure these cameras are installed. That from Senior Vice President and Chief Information Officer of the NFL, Gary Brantley. So Hawkeye technology has been used in multiple sports, most notable example being tennis. Apparently they did not consult with Coco Golf on this, but at any rate, that's kind of where that is. So,
yeah, and my immediate thought was this kind of harkens back to the question you had asked about the Titans and Nissan Stadium and their upgrades, and we did mention that there were sideline upgrades. I'm curious if that falls under this, because I'm torn on this, Mo. We've talked about it when it was kind of initially mentioned a couple months ago, but man, I get everybody wants the most precise and accurate call, but man, I'm going to be sad when when we don't have the chain gang running all the way across the field and just really heightening the drama and just stretching it out, and you don't know if it's short or if it's long, and then you find out one way or the other. I'm kind of going to miss that. And it says they're going to have it as a backup, but it's not going to be the same.
I agree with you. I mean, 10 yards is 10 yards, and not everything has to be improved upon. I don't I don't necessarily have an issue with the chains, but we're reducing a significant amount of time, 40 seconds for each time of use, that basically is making the game that much more impactful. And then also the system is accurate down to less than half an inch, which is incredibly, incredibly accurate. Hopefully the fans appreciate the objective view, or at least half the fans each play appreciating it. So
now that is the clutch quantifier. And the other thing, you know, obviously I'm not in charge of the NFL or the sports czar or anything, but man, it also, have we not had chips in footballs and the second you break the plane, it's a touchdown? Because that feels like that's the next hurdle to cross but that just seems to me like the easiest fix. And you see it a lot, like you mentioned, in tennis. You see it a lot now at soccer. I mean, the offside camera now is crazy. I mean, a guy's shoelace is offside by however long that is, and they're able to detect that. So it feels a little archaic or a little catch up from the NFL, but I'm like, man, the touchdowns, I would rather the touchdowns get fixed first than rather
the first downs,
the yard to gain. And I'm saying that as a Michigan fan, and I may or may not still hold a grudge from the Ohio State game several years ago. So he was short.
Interesting that you bring up grudges, because well, first of all, Wade, did you ever think the basketball tournament, the TBT, would enjoy the space that it's in now with national television and sold out arenas and that kind of thing?
You know, not even to this level. I didn't think so. I thought it was a very cool idea. And I mean, in some regards, it was kind of the precursor to the NIL and some of the tournaments that we've talked about that are maybe being brought in coming soon with prizes for the winners and things like that. But no, I certainly didn't think it would reach this level or this level of fervor as kind of we tiptoe into here.
Fervor is a good word. Louisville and Kentucky played at Freedom Hall on Monday night. Louisville winning that game 70-61. Is that right? No, I'm sorry. La Familia, the Kentucky team, defeated the Ville 70-61. And that was part of the problem, because apparently after, here's something else you didn't know, Wade. Did you know L's down was a thing? I mean, we know horns down is an issue.
You know, I didn't know that, but I probably wouldn't have wanted to just go around flashing that in the streets of Louisville just to be extra safe. But I didn't know that it reached the horns down level as well.
It apparently has. It is a thing and became a thing after La Familia defeated the Ville on Monday night, because somebody threw the L's down at Louisville, and I guess they said something about somebody's mama as well, and all of a sudden somebody spit at somebody, and it was on, and a brawl had to be broken up on the floor after La Familia's win to advance. I think they are down to what, the final four teams playing for $1 million winner take all. This is nuts.
Hadn't been keeping up with the bracket this year. Tennessee usually, they might have this year too, but Tennessee usually.
I thought they were, but I've not seen them. Yeah, I didn't see them in the bracket. I don't know if they didn't have a team this year or what, but I came across a couple of games on TV, I guess one night last week, and it's just amazing to me again that it's on national TV and that it's drawing these kind of crowds. It's wild. So
it is July, however. It's key distinction. We'll watch just about anything in July.
You do have a point. Let's see. It looks like La Familia, Forever Cougs, which is a Houston team, Carmen's Crew, which is an Ohio State team, and the Happy Valley Hoopers out of Penn State, obviously. That looks like your Final Four if I'm reading this TBT tournament bracket right. So the championship game is set for August 4th and will be aired on Fox at 1 o'clock. Semifinals are on the 2nd. I guess that's Friday. Goodness. Oh, and I misread those brackets some kind of way because it's Eberline Drive and Forever Cougs in one semifinal, Carmen's Crew and La Familia in the other. And again, they're both, all of that is in Philadelphia this weekend on Friday and on Sunday. So it's wild. It's really, I guess, again, if you're looking for something to watch in the summer, you can do worse. So.
Absolutely. And I remember, they've since disbanded, but Overseas Elite was the dynasty in this league many, many years ago. They finally decided, enough's enough. You can only win so much money, I guess.
Yeah.
They won like 4 out of the first 5 titles, five out of the first 6, something crazy. And then to your point, too, I do have a good buddy that was texting me, our friend Kyle Schwartz from the OVC. I mean, he's a big Kentucky guy. And, even he was chirping because that's the level that this rivalry has reached and will always be at, it seems like, in the sport of men's basketball for sure. And basically said, well, if you don't want to play us on the real hardwood, we'll take it and we'll beat you on the basketball tournament hardwood as well.
There we go. Absolutely. The Olympics are going on. U.S. is up 55-36 on South Sudan at the half, so they kind of widened things out since the last time we checked in.
They outscored them at bench points. I just saw the stat earlier, Mo. 40-5 was the bench scoring for the U.S. in that advantage there.
That'll
do
it. Oh, yeah. Well, when you've got Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton coming off of said bench.
And Durant. But Adebayo is the guy who's balling today. He had 14 points, I think, in the first half and that's the depth that when we talk about. The rest of the world is kind of catching up, but they're not catching up with the number of overall depth when you're talking about Tatum coming off the bench and didn't even play the first game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of just this super sub that you're capable of throwing out there. And then you got a guy like Adebayo who's just a genetic freak, and he's kind of just out there as a super sub as well. So, I mean, they're running away with it. They should pull away from South Sudan, and then we'll see what happens as we progress later in the tournament.
And as you mentioned, I mean, how as an opponent do you get ready for that? I mean, you think you've got a couple of guys accounted for, and then all of a sudden, bam, Adebayo comes out of nowhere.
He hit 2 threes while I was watching earlier. I mean, the fact he's spacing up and shooting threes. Embiid is I don't even know if Embiid has got on the court much today. I mean, so think about that. You just got an MVP from a couple years ago, just sitting there, just resting. I mean, good luck to everybody else.
Yeah, if they need me, I'm here. If they don't, I'm cool. Yeah. The U.S. women 102, Japan 76 yesterday. They play Belgium tomorrow at 12 noon our time. Team USA is currently at the top of the Group C standings, followed by Germany, Belgium, and Japan. Imagine that. 56 straight Olympic wins for the U.S. women's basketball team. They've not lost since the semifinals of Barcelona back in 92.
A little bit of a dynasty going on right there.
Yeah. What else, Wade, has kind of jumped out at you?
Well, I did see this picture. I got to triple check this, but Yao Ming is the women's coach for China. Is that correct?
Oh, wow.
That screenshot was making, I mentioned Royal Ivy, the former Texas guy, is coaching South Sudan, but Yao Ming, I think, is coaching in the Olympics as well right now. And then a moment ago, in the first hour, we also mentioned that France obviously they did win that game, so they now have advanced into the next round, but Japan really blew that game. And Rudy Gobert, just when you think he's found a way. He's had every way to end up on a poster. He ended up on a poster the wrong way because he got stuffed by some guy like half his size from Japan yesterday. So not only is he getting dunked on, but when he tries to dunk, he's getting blocked. So poor Rudy is struggling in his home country right now.
Rudy finds his way into those type situations, apparently. So, and that's tough.
And that's
like you said,
that's with a
especially
global pandemic going on. You know, he's not touching the microphones or anything crazy this go around. I mean, he's trying to do his best, and it will be interesting because I didn't realize this really till the tournament kind of kicked off. But France is wild because there's no defensive 3 seconds. And so when we talked with Darren last week, I mean, that's when it really kind of dawned on me. I mean, how do you attack that if you just park those two guys down low and you don't even have to move, and the defensive goaltending rules are reduced as far as swatting the ball off the rim and whatnot?
That could get ugly.
It feels like we're trending toward another USA-France showdown. U.S. seems to be playing right kind of where they need to be, keeping everybody happy. That's Steve Kerr's big job right now, seemingly. He's just kind of keeping the status quo in check and keeping everybody happy going forward and managing the minutes. It's hard for Embiid to get hurt if he's not playing. That's another key point to make there.
Mark, you've got some medal counts, do you not? Mark's got some medal counts. France has 25 total. U.S. leads with 30 total. China and Japan with 8 golds each to lead the way there. U.S. with 5 to this point. So, again, USA with 30 total medals. France with 25. China has 18. Great Britain, not England, has 17. And then Japan with 15, Australia with 14. So nice performance to this point. Again, USA with 5 golds, 13 silvers, and 12 bronze to this point. So,
and you would assume it feels, and it's kind of always. It feels like it's always the U.S. and China that are kind of duking it out just because of the sheer number of athletes are sending almost.
Right.
You just got more chances.
Yeah. I mean, the more events you can cover, the better off you got to put up those numbers like that. So it'll be interesting. I think women's all around gymnastics finals are tomorrow, and they, would feel like a cinch to pick up more there. So we'll be keeping an eye on that and on Paris in general.
Hey, another one real quick. I did want to mention the other team I am rooting for is the Olympic refugee team. This team came together in 2016, and this year's group is 37 total athletes of all different original nationalities that have come together kind of in their time of refuge. And they have a boxer, Cindy Ngamba, who apparently is going to have a chance in her next fight to clinch the first medal of these Olympics. So it'll be very cool to see, because I'm rooting for the U.S., but they are a strong number 2 in terms of who I'm rooting for this year.
Absolutely. Be something to keep an eye on. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Lee Company studios, we will be joined by Terry McCormick of TitanInsider.com. We'll be talking a little Titans. Stay tuned after the break.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
News here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. In our final segment, Wade and I will bring you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. Right now, we're going to bring you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. And to help us do that, we are joined by Terry McCormick of TitanInsider.com. Terry,
how are you guys?
How are you?
What's up, Terry?
Oh, it's been hot out there the last couple of days, so I'm now recovering in the air conditioning.
It's been hot in more ways than one, it sounds like.
Oh, it sure has. Yesterday was crazy. 2 fights on consecutive plays involving Jeffrey Simmons, and then after that, he kind of lost his cool at radio show host Buck Rising while he was live on the air, and Big Jeff went out of his way to issue an apology for that outburst yesterday, and probably best that he does, because I think he was largely out of line in that regard in terms of the way you have to handle yourself as a professional and as a leader, because there are going to be times that criticism comes and you're not always going to agree with the opinions of others, but you've got to be, knowing the position that he's in, he's got to be the bigger man. And today, I think he took a step toward that.
Before we get into that apology, Terry, what do you know about what it was that he took issue with Buck regarding?
Well, originally, he kind of shut things down, talking about people. I guess somebody had said that his opinion, that he was soft or sensitive or something like that a couple of weeks ago, regarding a tweet when someone pointed out about the signing of Jamal Adams, that Jamal Adams had only played in 10 games over the past 2 seasons. And that's not a criticism, that's a fact. But nonetheless, Jeff, I guess, took offense to some of the stuff there and responded. And then yesterday, during practice, when the big fight broke out, Buck Rising tweeted, as a lot of us did, about what was going on out there. And he just said that, Jeff has to be better than that, that he's a leader on this team and he's got to lock in and not do such things. And I guess word got back to Jeff once he got to the locker room and he went to go out and try to, set the matter straight.
That said, we've got a clip of Jeff's remarks from camp today. Producer Mark, help us out.
A lot of y'all have been here since I've been here. So y'all know me. That's not who I am. That's not who I want to be seen as. I talked to Buck. We have an understanding. I have understanding where we're coming from. I have understanding where he comes from. He has a job. I have a job. At the end of the day, I take full accountability of my action on the field. I mean, that'll never happen again with me. Like I said, I always talk about that switch, when to turn it on, when to turn it off. I was kind of still had it on coming off the field. Of course, with the way practice went. But that, like I said, that's not me. It'll never happen again. And to all you guys, like I said, I apologize, and not because it's hit social media, but it's because who I am. That's not my character. And I think from here on out, like I said, from that point, like I said, I spoke on about it. I'm ready to move forward. Any football questions, I'm here to answer.
You know, I'm one of those guys that's kind of the opinion of if a person apologizes for something, that's about all you can ask them to do. So, just kind of take it and go. Terry, do you feel like, bygones will be bygones as far as this goes? I mean, this truly was kind of out of character for Jeff relative to what we've seen out of him since he's been here. I think we all get a mulligan, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll blow over. I think it's a situation where, going forward, they'll put it behind them, and I think the relationship should be just fine. Excuse me, a little tickle in the throat there. But, yeah, I think this should be just fine. 2 or 3 days from now, it won't be news anymore.
Terry, I'm curious. So much of this kind of got blasted on social media in regards to the issue with Buck, and shout out to our buddy Lucas Panzica, who was kind of right there in the middle, having to separate those two if it came to that. But I'm curious, where do we sit between him and Latham, who really kind of were the ones that got locked up yesterday? Was that just guys being guys, hitting each other for the first time, or kind of where does that situation sit?
Yeah, that was just football. I mean, it, shouldn't have come to a swing from Jeff at Latham, but it was just football, and that happens when it's 95 degrees and you're in training camp and you got 2 300-pound plus guys going against each other, for quite a while. So, I like the fact that Latham didn't back down from the star of the team. I like the fact that he held his ground and held his own. I think that's a good sign if you're looking, for something regarding this rookie offensive lineman who has been anointed as the new left tackle and the answer to a problem that's been lingering now for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I found that part fascinating. And then I love what you mentioned from Latham. I mean, to step up to kind of the biggest dog in the yard on one of your first real big days, I mean, that shows a lot to me.
Oh, no doubt. I think it just says that, that he's not going to back down, that he's here and that he's here to improve and learn. And it's a good test because, sometimes veterans have been known to give rookies a test to see if they can pass it or not. And I would say that Latham passed it with flying colors.
They say that if you're incarcerated, that's what you do, right? You just find the baddest dude out there and just go at him and kind of establish, announce your presence with authority, as they say, right? But you mentioned JC. What have you seen out of him to this point, other than that he will take on the biggest guy on the yard?
I think he's getting better. It's still a work in progress. This offensive line, and here's the thing, and we had a little discussion about this. It's something I brought up with Sam Phelan, Paul Kaharski, a couple of other guys out there as we were sitting around in the room. We've been noticing that the first team defense has been putting a lot more pressure on Will Levis than, say, the second team defense has been putting on Mason Rudolph, or the third team defense has been putting on Malik Willis. And therefore, he's had a little bit less time to throw, a little bit less time to react. I think the offensive line is getting better simply for the fact that they're going against this attacking, aggressive style defense that the Titans are showing here early in camp. They're pressing things on the outside, man coverage. They're shooting blitzers through the gap when they're having opportunities and things like that. And so this is going to force this offensive line group to grow up in a hurry. And I do think they handled it better today than they did yesterday. So we'll see if they can keep stacking days as we go through camp.
Going back just a second to that situation between J.C. Latham and Jeff Simmons. Excuse me. Excuse me. You passed your tickle along to me, Terry. Did Brian Callahan have an opportunity to handle that differently? Did he mishandle that? I read that maybe Jeff should have been sent in for a little bit, maybe get under the air conditioning for a little bit and kind of cool off, literally and figuratively, as it turns out. But I mean, was there a different way that could have been handled? Maybe that some of what happened after may have been avoided?
Well, I don't fault Callahan at all. I think he got control of the situation as soon as he could, and he was not very pleased with what transpired. I mean, the first incident between Simmons and Latham was broken up fairly quickly, lasted maybe 30 seconds. It was the second incident when Simmons was involved in throwing Mason Kinsey off of a guy that he had pinned down. And granted, Kinsey probably should have let the guy up. But that's when tempers started to flare and the whole melee ensued. And that's when Callahan stepped in and said, enough. You're wasting time. We're not getting anything done here. And he said it with a few more colorful adjectives than I used there. And I think that was kind of the end of it as far as most of the team was concerned. As far as, Jeff's situation, I don't know whether, he had calmed down, sufficiently, because he went inside the locker room, but then came back out apparently after he got word of what Buck had tweeted about the situation. So who knows? I think it's probably just best to let it drop and these having 2 days off, on Thursday and Friday, probably one of the better things that can turn this into a non-story.
I think so. Terry, I want to ask you about two guys, one on defense, one on offense. I saw a clip of new draft pick on the defensive side of the ball, Jarvis Brownlee. And I'm really curious because the video I saw, this guy is not wearing gloves. He's not wearing sleeves. He's not wearing any extra gear, and he is locking down Tyler Boyd. And somebody tweeted and said, that is a guy you need to be worried about. A guy that's not wearing any gloves or any other of these fancy adornments is out there locking down one of your new receivers.
I like what I've seen out of him. He's been one of the more impressive rookies. I'm not going to lie. He is around the football making plays. I was talking to Rand Carthon. We were talking a little bit about the Simmons situation during kind of a, off the record time, just chatting. And then Brownlee knocks a ball away. And I said, dang, he makes more, this guy makes plays. And you could tell that the GM was pretty pleased with what they have so far in Jarvis Brownlee. And you're right. He's like, he's like you pointed out, no gloves. He's like the guy that walks up to the plate with no gloves and a wooden bat and smokes a line drive out into the alley. So he's a guy that wants to play some football.
He looks good from the clips that I've seen. And then the other guy I want to ask, what have you seen out of Treylon Burks? Because I've read and seen some things that look kind of promising. I'm curious your take.
Had a nice catch on a deep ball today, and I think he's, gotten himself into shape now where it's going to make him a little faster and maybe a little better route runner, more crisp. Now, the biggest thing for Treylon now is he's now stuck behind at least three guys in DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, and Tyler Boyd. So he's going to have to take advantage of the reps that he gets, most of which are going to come with the twos, and try to establish himself as the fourth guy and almost a utility guy, if you will. And then the other thing that he's probably going to have a hand in, don't be surprised if he's not one of your kickoff returners with this new rule.
I'm glad you said that, because we've heard a lot about the new rule. What is that going to entail?
It looks weird as heck when you see it practiced. It really does. Now, they did that on a field where we weren't at. We were you've been out there. We were at the field that's closest to the building. They did this. They did the kickoff return period on the middle field so that the quarterbacks and a few of the receivers that don't play special teams could, do a little bit of throwing during the downtime or whatever needed to be done. But it is going to be different because you're going to have guys lined up 10 yards apart. And it's going to be, I think, one of the biggest things, there's several things that are going to be different about this. One is, where are the officials going to stand? What are they going to watch for? The officials that came in to talk about the rule changes the other day, and they've been here at practice for these 2 days, they spoke about how, one of the things they're going to look for are guys raising their feet, leaving their assigned position before the ball is kicked off. That's one of the things that, they're going to be watching for. That's going to be a 5-yard penalty. It's also going to mess with the onside kick. There are no more surprise onside kicks. The only time onside kicks are allowed are in the fourth quarter when a team is trailing. Can't call an onside kick when you're tied anymore. So, and you have to announce it, obviously, because then you go back to the old rule of kicking off at the 35, So it's going to be interesting. And then it's also going to be interesting, too, the types of athletes that you put on the field to cover these kicks. Because they're so mushed together, so to speak, with different rules as to when they can take off and start to block or shed blocks, whatever the case may be, it's going to maybe take a different type of athlete maybe than you would have had on the front row of a wedge under normal kickoff circumstances.
Do you feel like coaching staffs have a fix on this, or is this just going to be kind of a learn as you go type situation for everybody?
I think they've got a little bit of a working knowledge of it. If I were a coach here in the NFL, or especially a special teams coach or a head coach, first thing I would do would be to reach out to somebody that is or was on a coaching staff in the XFL when this rule was implemented and get their, delve into their mind as to what works, what doesn't, that sort of thing, and kind of go from there. But I do think the preseason is going to be telling, because I think teams will be trying a lot of different things to see what works in terms of getting a decent return and what works in stopping the returns.
Okay. All right. So,
and at the end of the day, the Ravens will somehow have it figured out better than everybody else. It seems like they just always have special teams dialed in.
And they'll end up getting a special teams touchdown or two out of it at a crucial time.
But you definitely want to be watching kickoffs and watching tomorrow night's game between the Bears and the Texans just to kind of see this in action, I guess. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the attractions, and at least until this gets figured out, the kickoff, won't be the time that you go to the refrigerator to get a snack.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Terry McCormick of Titan Insider joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Terry, what do the next few days look like for the Titans as they continue to slog through preseason action?
Well, we got a day off and then a non-media day, and then they're back in a full practice on Saturday and Sunday. Both those practices are in the morning at around 8:30 a.m., the same as the past two practice days have been. So they'll continue to work and try to sort through some of these position battles and continue to implement different parts of the offensive and defensive systems as they kind of go through camp and kind of get everything ready to roll, because there's a game coming up before you know it here on August the 10th against the 49ers.
So you've got 2 days off.
I have 2 days off. 2 days off from the Titans, not 2 days off from all my other duties.
Yeah.
But 2 days off from the Titans.
There you go. Congratulations. Well, man, we appreciate you taking some time with us as you head into those 2 days off from the Titans. And I know it was on short notice, but thanks for accommodating us. And we will be checking back in with you as the preseason continues.
All right. Thanks for having me. See you guys.
All right. when we come back to Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. It's Wild and Wacky Wednesday. Wade and I will be bringing you some of the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. So stay tuned when we come back to the Lee Company Studios after this.
Welcome to Protein Snack Shop, your destination for healthy and delicious low-carb snacks. Our specialty lies in providing protein-packed desserts that are perfect for those following a keto diet. Our products are made with high-quality ingredients, ensuring that you can satisfy your cravings without compromising your health goals. From a variety of flavors and options to choose from, you can enjoy guilt-free snacking while staying on track with your fitness journey. Don't miss out on our limited time offer. Discover Protein Snack Shop today.
Wild and Wacky Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. Real quick, it's USA 87, South Sudan 70, with a little under 5.5 minutes remaining. It's also the Braves 6, the Brewers 2, heading into the top of the ninth. 2 homer days for both Matt Olson and Travis d'Arnaud. So, nice Wednesday afternoon performance out of those two, which the sudden tear that Matt Olson is on sounds pretty wild and wacky given what his season has looked like to this point. So it kind of dovetails nicely into our final segment, and we will start in and around Las Vegas. Gizmo, a dog owned in the Vegas area, went missing in 2015. Judith Monterez received an email that her dog had been located alive across town.
2015?
2015, the dog went missing, slipped past a faulty gate in the backyard of her parents' home. She has since moved into her own home, earned a master's degree in English, and began teaching. Said she never stopped trying to find Gizmo and is now heading to an animal hospital to reunite with the 11-year-old dog, who she had chipped. And when he got to the animal hospital, they checked and located her and reached out to her, and goodness gracious, 9 years.
That is, yeah. I mean, we hear stories, obviously, of dogs that either return magically back to their house after they've been lost somewhere and things like that. But 9 years, oh my goodness. And
I can't imagine.
I mean, so Gizmo had to be a relatively young dog because, man, that is a long time. And I'm wondering what the heck Gizmo was doing during all that time. I mean, there's a lot to do in Las Vegas, but eventually some of that probably gets a little old.
Well, well, we may never know, because you know what happens in Vegas.
I mean, Gizmo, man, shout out. And obviously the microchip really was the huge thing. But, man, and then props to the owner for kind of going on to those accolades that you mentioned there. I mean, moving, getting the degree, and kind of anytime you lose a pet, especially kind of in a sudden fashion like that, man, that could have ended poorly on a number of different fronts. But props to her and to Gizmo.
Absolutely. Ironically, a new Las Vegas city ordinance is set to take effect tomorrow, requiring I don't think it'll be as tough a sell once this story gets out.
You know, and I'm not going to go conspiracy mode, but man, that is wild timing, to say the least.
Yeah.
It certainly warms the hearts a little more hearing a story like that.
While Monterez and her parents can't stop thinking about what Gizmo endured after he went missing, their focus now is on addressing his health issues and showering him with all the love that we were holding on to for all those years. Good Lord. That's, oh man. And if you are a pet owner, that just kind of reaches out and grabs you, man. Couple of black bears reached out and grabbed a car in Connecticut, apparently, and did not leave it in very good shape. There was an adult and 2 cubs around this Connecticut home. Somehow, the adult and one of the cubs got trapped in a vehicle. The other cub running around in apparent distress. Earlier this month, State Environmental Conservation Police came, opened the car. The 2 bears trapped inside ran off along with the 3rd bear. The car's interior was completely torn apart. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Well, that's what happens when 2 bears get in your car that don't want to be there.
Yeah, I mean,
But here's the thing, you know how'd they get in there? They wandered in. I guess the door closed behind them and they couldn't figure how to open it, and that's when they decided they wanted out. So
yeah, I'm wondering, could we tell what kind of car that is? Because I'm wondering immediately. I know they're small, but man, I'm thinking about my car. I don't think 2 bears could fit my car.
I can't tell anything about that car other than it is destroyed.
And so, yeah, man, being able to, we talk about, how crazy and vicious kind of they can be when they're defensive or protective.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, that's like they're borderline, probably presumably kind of in like life or death mode, right? Fight or flight mode. And I don't know what sort of insurance policy you got, but I don't know if it covers bear thrashings.
I don't know how you file that.
I just have to chalk that up to a loss, unfortunately.
I mean, can you imagine being the adjuster getting called out to look at that? And the stories that you tell when you go back to the office, y'all ain't gonna believe what I just
got one for you. Bear thrashing.
Oh man. Throw those pictures up again, Mark.
I mean, that was some.
That's. I just don't know what to say. I mean, bears are big. Earlier in the week, a nearly 500-pound black bear was struck and killed near the same area. So, I mean, 500 pounds of 500 pounds of I don't want to be here.
Yeah, right. I mean, locked in, and it's like, okay, I do not want to be here. I can sleep a little better by the fact that they weren't able to open the door and get out. That does bring me a little bit of level of comfort. They're not going Velociraptor in Jurassic Park mode just yet. I feel like they probably would have been able to figure out eventually, but that at least helps me sleep a little easier.
Goodness gracious. That's unreal. From Japan, 1 dead and dozens sickened after eating roasted eel from a Japanese department store. You hear about gas station food.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, department store eel ain't great for you. One person died, nearly 150 others were sickened after eating grilled eel prepared by a restaurant chain and sold at a department store near Tokyo. 147 customers had reported symptoms such as gastric distress after eating grilled eel dishes sold in the grocery store of the department store based in Yokohama. Japan has a tradition of eating roasted eel as a tonic for the heat during the hottest days of summer. A woman in her 90s died after developing symptoms, but her exact cause of death is being further investigated. 2 others were hospitalized, but the symptoms of others affected were milder. The only common denominator among the sickened was the grilled eel, sold separately or as part of box lunches served with rice, prepared by the Tokyo-based restaurant chain Nihonbashi Isasada, and sold at the department store. More than 1,700 servings of grilled eel were sold. I don't think I would be eating eel anyway, but at this point, I feel pretty certain I won't.
Yeah, that's not good. And you know, I love me some Costco hot dogs for $1.50. I mean, how could you not? But I don't know if I'm stepping up and ordering roasted eel at Costco necessarily. And then I don't know. I eat a lot of weird things, and I mean, I've not gone to gas station sushi per se, but I mean, when I'm at Publix or wherever, Kroger, I'll grab some of the pre-cut, sushi and go ahead and, I mean, it's not the smartest thing that I've ever done, but I've lived to tell about it. But I'm kind of like you now. I'm kind of suddenly maybe rethinking some of my
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do love eel, but yeah, I'm kind of rethinking things now on that front.
I think it would be good to rethink things. Absolutely. Human hand found on beach sparks police response, but all is not as it seems. Apparently, a human hand or foot was found by South Wales police. That's Ireland. Is that Ireland or is that Australia?
South Wales.
South
we
Wales.
got Wales, the country. So I'm not sure if that's I guess that's the town name, but
yeah. No, I guess that's the UK. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I was going to say we're in the Olympics, so we got to let's cover our bases, and we'll just say Great Britain.
Great Britain. There we go.
They're particular about that over there.
While on patrol, officers were called by members of the Coast Guard to a beach where a human foot hand had been found. The force said the area in question is known for having parts of dead seals or other marine animals washed up. It can be difficult for members of the public to tell the difference between human and seal bones, as seals also have 5 fingers and toes. Eventually, the hand was found to be part of a seal. So, I mean, it's slightly less tragic. I guess it's not quite as off-putting as finding someone's hand. But,
yeah, I was gonna make an Antonio Alfonseca joke because his would have been easily identifiable. But
yeah, you'd have known if it was Alfonseca because there would have been 6 fingers, not 5.
Yeah, we had the one extra there to go off of. But I mean, man, first of all, you don't know if it's a hand or foot. That's a little scary. Don't know what that necessarily says about the at the time presumed person. And then imagine if you are a person, you're like, man, that was my foot. And then they're like, oh, this looks like a seal's foot. I would kind of take a little offense to that. I don't want my foot or hand being
confused
this could be a seal's hand. I mean, that's a little insulting at that point.
Or even a lot. Yeah. It's wild and wacky. That's what we bring you here on Main Street Sports today. Wade, have you ever been possessed to row across the Atlantic Ocean?
No. No. Seems really cool, English Channel, et cetera, et cetera. It always seems like a really cool feat. And then when I think about it for about 10 good seconds, no is the answer.
Well, apparently.
Where are you going with this? I can only imagine.
Tom Waddington thought otherwise. He's got an Instagram account at Todd Waddington _skier. This guy is rowing across the Atlantic Ocean solo. He wasn't solo a few days ago when a pod of pilot whales decided to accompany him, following him for hours, growing from a few playful animals to hundreds of large creatures, at least one of which smacked into his small boat. Now, fortunately, these weren't the same whales that we talked about last week that flipped the
Yeah,
boat
that's what I was thinking.
up off the New Hampshire coast. But Waddington is rowing some 2,000 nautical miles from the Newfoundland coast to Penzance in the United Kingdom. And the whales, again, didn't seem to mean any harm, but I don't know how. I would kind of think that whales don't mean any harm until they do. I don't know.
Yeah, they didn't mean to take down that boat either.
Theoretically,
Yeah.
I still
That's
ain't
their
so
story.
Sure. Yeah. I'm still not so sure I buy that. This is so cool. I love it, but I'm scared they're going to hit my rudder, he said on the video. Waddington emerged unscathed, but a little shaken by the risk mammals weighing thousands of pounds can pose to his boat and equipment on an unsupported solo trip. How long, I reckon, would it take to row 2,000 miles?
Yeah, that's that seems like quite the undertaking.
And I just don't understand why you would want to do that.
Well, I'm wondering. I mean, there's quotes from him.
Yeah,
and it's on his video that he's taken. They just got cell service just out in the middle of nowhere. It seems like a waste of resource. So what can we get Verizon to put a 5G tower in Pulaski instead of having cell service out in the middle of
the Atlantic Ocean?
Come on now.
Waddington, who works as a ski instructor, is rowing across the ocean for a fundraiser befitting Mind, the British mental health charity led by the actor Stephen Fry. Waddington estimates that more than 1,000 whales swam with him. His coach said the best thing to do is be quiet and still, which is the opposite of what I did. But I mean, eventually the whales left the boat and its sole occupant with a rare story about crossing the Grand Banks, the large fishery at the edge of the North American continental shelf.
I looked this up. You mentioned his coach. I Googled the coach. He previously did this, and it took him 35 days and 33 minutes, which smashed the record, they say, of 40 days and 9 hours prior. So this is a big undertaking.
5 weeks.
Man.
5 weeks at sea by yourself.
Tom Hanks would sympathize.
I'm not sure about that one. I just don't know.
And I mean, it probably won't count for the record, but if you think these whales are cool, I'm trying to rig up something where they kind of carry my boat a little bit.
You're right. I mean, just get up under it and push.
Do it. Yeah, if you're not worried about a record or something, just rig up something. Talk sweet to them and see if they'll hook you up a little bit.
That's just a little bit too close for comfort to me. I mean, animals, as we've noted at various times during this segment, animals are so unpredictable, man. I mean, could have been worse. At least they weren't bears, right?
Oh man, yeah. Whales is already scary enough. I don't want to think about what a bear might do in that situation because
we saw the damage bears can do to cars that they get into and can't.
It's not good when just rowing across the ocean is like the least scary part of this whole story.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, I mean, it gets worse and worse, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, that's going to do it for Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports today. Thanks for joining us. We will be back here at 2:00 tomorrow in the Lee Company studios. So be sure and join us. We'll talk to you then.